The crash in the wasteland. The sun was low in the sky. Red and orange light painted the empty wasteland. Nothing moved, no birds, no animals, just wind and sand. Jace Walker walked alone. He was a quiet man, a human, a former mechanic who now lived far from the cities. People said he liked silence, but the truth was, he was hiding from his own past. That afternoon he was fixing an old solar panel when he heard it. Boom! A loud sound ripped through the sky. He looked up. A streak of smoke was falling fast, right toward the dry hills. A crash. A ship. Jace grabbed his tools and ran toward the smoke. His boots hit the hard earth. Rocks and dust rose behind him. The wind carried the smell of burning metal. He followed it. After 20 minutes of running, he found the crash site. A small pod, maybe an escape ship, had hit the ground hard. The hull was cracked. One side was on fire. Jace saw strange alien writing along the edge. Not military, not common. He stepped closer and heard a sound. A child's cry. Jace froze, then moved fast. He pulled open the emergency door. Inside was smoke, and inside that smoke, he saw them. A young alien girl no older than 5 sat shaking in a corner. Her big purple eyes were full of fear. Her skin was pale blue, her arms wrapped around someone. Next to her was a woman, barely breathing, bleeding. Her body covered in strange bruises and sharp burns. She was unconscious, but still alive. The girl looked up at him. She didn't speak, just stared. "I won't hurt you," Jace said, softly. He dropped to his knees and crawled inside. The heat burned his skin. He gently pulled the girl out, then went back for the woman. It took all his strength, but he lifted her into his arms and carried both of them outside. The pod behind them crackled and popped. It wouldn't last much longer. He moved them under a rock ledge for cover. The girl was still quiet. Her eyes followed his every move. Jace took off his coat and wrapped it around her small body. Then he looked at the woman. She was losing too, much blood. He checked her pulse. Weak, but there. Then her eyes opened. Just a little. She looked at him, confused, in pain. "They're hunting us," she whispered in a broken voice. Jace leaned in. "Who's hunting you?" She couldn't answer. Her head fell back, unconscious again. He sighed. "Great. Trouble." But he couldn't leave them here. If someone or something was hunting them, they had no chance. He stood up, lifted the woman again, and looked at the child. "You're coming with me." The girl nodded slowly, still silent. They walked for 2 hours. The wind picked up. Dust blew across the wasteland. The girl began to stumble. Jace lifted her into his other arm, even though he was already tired. Finally, in the distance, he saw his small cabin, hidden between rocks, covered in scrap and solar panels. Not much, but it was safe. He brought them inside, laid the woman on a cot, and checked her wounds. He didn't have fancy medical tools, just old supplies and a few healing sprays. But he had enough. He cleaned her cuts, wrapped her burns, stitched the worst wounds. He didn't even know her species, but he worked carefully, slowly, patiently. The child sat nearby, watching. When he was done, he looked at the girl. "What's your name?" She didn't answer. He pointed to himself. "Jace." He pointed to her. She hesitated, then whispered, "Leary. Leary." He repeated. "Nice to meet you." She nodded. Her eyes slowly blinked. She was exhausted. He made her a warm drink with the last bit of powder he had. She drank it quickly, then curled, up near her mother. Jace leaned back in his chair. He watched them both. He didn't ask questions. Not yet. But in the back of his mind, something felt wrong. The crash, the injuries, the fear, and the warning. They're hunting us. Outside, the wind howled louder. Far away, in the darkness, a strange light flashed for a second and vanished. Someone had followed them. Maybe they hadn't seen Jace, maybe not yet. But they would come back, and when they did, Jace knew he had a choice: run or protect them. Hunted under alien skies. Night had fallen over the wasteland. The stars above were cold and silent. The wind whispered through broken metal and dry rocks. In Jace's cabin there was stillness but not peace. He didn't sleep. Jace sat near the window, holding a worn-out pulse rifle. It hadn't fired in years. He had cleaned it 3 times, already, just to stay awake. On the bed, the alien mother rested, her breathing shallow. Leary, the little girl, slept curled beside her, holding tightly to her mother's hand. A soft purple glow pulsed faintly from the skin between her fingers. A natural trait, maybe, or a signal of stress. Jace didn't know. But something about it made him feel uneasy. He stood up quietly and stepped outside. The night air was sharp. His boots crunched on the dry sand. Far in the distance, toward the direction of the crash site, he saw it again, a blue flicker just for a second, then gone. He cursed under his breath. Jace had seen that flicker before, years ago during the war. It wasn't a star. It was a drone scout. Silent, nearly invisible, but deadly. It meant someone was scanning the area. They're already looking, he whispered to himself. He walked to the edge of the hill behind his cabin and crouched low, pulled out his old military scanner. It still worked. Barely. The screen blinked. A small blip appeared, then 2, then 3. Tracking teams, he muttered. They're sweeping in a spiral pattern. Someone wants them found. He returned inside quickly, locked the door, barred the windows. Leary stirred and looked up at him. Are we safe? She asked quietly. Her voice was thin, but this time she spoke in English. Jace froze. You speak my language? She nodded. Mama taught me. He knelt beside her. I'll keep you safe, both of you, I promise. She looked down. They hurt her. They killed my papa. Jace's jaw tightened. Not again. He stood up and moved toward a hidden hatch in the corner of the room. He pulled it open, revealing a dark tunnel leading underground. It used to be his storage tunnel. Now it would be their escape route. He placed emergency food packs, a med kit, and 2 thermal blankets into a sack. Then he placed the sack inside the tunnel, ready for fast escape. Suddenly, a soft beeping. The scanner again. He rushed over. 2 red dots. Close now, just over the ridge, less than 5 minutes away. No time, he whispered. He woke the mother gently. Her eyes fluttered open. She looked confused at first, then terrified. Leary. She gasped. She's here. Safe, Jace said quickly. We have to move now. He helped her sit up. She groaned but nodded. He turned to Leary. Can you help your mom walk? The girl jumped up and took her mother's hand. Together they moved to the tunnel hatch. Jace paused at the door. He needed to buy time. He reached into a shelf and pulled out a small metal orb. A flare grenade. 1 use only. Enough to confuse. Heat scanners. He threw it out the back window and watched it roll down the hill. Then he climbed into the tunnel and sealed the hatch behind him. Darkness. Only the sound of quiet breathing and distant wind. Jace led them through the tunnel. After 20 minutes they reached a hidden exit. Another small cave behind a thick bush of dry alien thorns. They stepped into the open again. But now, they were nearly half a mile from the cabin. Behind them, a distant noise filled the air. Whoosh! Low-flying ship flew over the cabin. Light scanned the area. Then boom! An explosion rocked the ground. Flames shot into the sky. Jace turned away. They torched the place, he said. That means they know someone helped. The alien woman leaned on him. You risked your life for us, why? He looked at her for a long moment. Because I've seen too many innocents die, and I was too late to save the last ones. She didn't ask what he meant, but she understood. She held out her hand weakly. I'm Sirah. He shook it gently. Jace? Little Leary looked up. Where will we go now? Jace looked around at the dark desert and the stars above. We go where they won't find us, he said. And if they do, I won't run. For see, the first time Sarah gave him a faint smile. Then you are more than just a protector. No, Jace said, but I'm becoming one. Behind them, the smoke rose from his destroyed home. Ahead of them, the hunt had just begun. The mother speaks. The morning was cold. The three of them, Jace, Sarah, and little Leary, had found shelter inside an abandoned cargo trailer half buried in the sand. It had once belonged to a mining crew, but now it was rusted, forgotten, and filled with dust. Jace had locked the door with old tools and metal wire. It wouldn't stop a serious threat, but it bought them time. Time Sarah needed. She was awake now, truly awake. No more drifting in and out. Her breathing was better. The bleeding had stopped, and for the first time she looked at Jace not with fear, but with focus. Where are we? She asked quietly. Jace poured water into a cracked cup and handed it to her. Wasteland's edge. About 2 clicks from my destroyed cabin. She took a small sip, then glanced down at Leary, who was asleep beside her, using Jace's coat as a pillow. You saved us, Sarah said, her voice low. Jace gave a small nod. You were in my sky. Crashed near my land, I couldn't ignore that. Sarah's lips tightened. She looked like she wanted to say more, but didn't. Silence fell. Jace broke it. Back at the crash, you said someone was hunting you. Her eyes darkened. Not someone, she said. A group, a syndicate. They kill widows like me, and take children like her. Jace frowned. Why? Sarah touched the side of Leary's face. My husband was a resistance leader. He died fighting them. They don't forget, or forgive. When he was gone, they came for me and Leary. I ran. Jace listened carefully. We lived in hiding, Sarah continued. But they found us. We tried to escape in a small pod. It was old, weak. It didn't survive the jump, and now you're here, Jace said. She nodded slowly. I know we're trouble, Sarah added, her eyes on him. You could walk away. Let us go. It would be safer for you. Jace leaned back, his arms crossed. Too late for that, he said. They already destroyed my home. If I walk now, I'll be just another man who watched a family die. Something in Sarah's face changed. Her shoulders relaxed just a little. A tiny spark of trust. Then you're rare, she whispered. Jace shrugged. Or just tired of being a coward. They both looked at Leary, still sleeping peacefully. The child had seen too much. But she hadn't lost her innocence. Not yet. She still smiles, Jace said. Even after everything. She's strong, Sarah said softly. Stronger than me. Then Sarah did something unexpected. She reached into the folds of her damaged clothing and pulled out a small glowing stone. It pulsed with a faint green light. What's that? Jace asked. Our last hope, she replied. It's a locator. For anyone left from our people. If any survived the purge, they may come. Jace leaned in. So turn it on. I can't. Not yet. Sarah looked outside. It's weak. Only one signal left. If I use it too early and no one is nearby, we lose our chance forever. Jace understood. So we wait, he said. Sarah nodded. And hide. But Jace's face turned serious. Not just hide. If they come again, we'll fight. You're only one man. I've been enough before. Sarah studied him. You talk like a soldier. Jace looked down. I was. She didn't ask about his past. Maybe she saw the pain in his eyes. Instead, she asked something else. "Why did you leave it behind?" He answered after a moment. "Because I lost people. People I couldn't protect." She looked at him, long and silent. "You're protecting us now." That simple sentence hit Jace harder than he expected. He looked away. Just then, Leary stirred. She sat up and rubbed her eyes. She looked at Sarah and smiled. "Mama, you're okay." Sarah smiled weakly and pulled her close. "Thanks to Jace." Leary hugged her tightly, then turned to the human. "Can I call you something?" Jace blinked. "Like what?" She smiled shyly. "Protector." He laughed softly. "Sure." Outside, the wind picked up. The peace would not last long, but in that moment, a mother spoke, a child smiled, and a man with scars found something worth standing for again. A human's defiance. The next day started with silence, but it was the wrong kind of silence. No birds, no bugs, no wind through metal. Even the dry air felt still. Jay stood on top of the cargo trailer holding a pair of old binoculars. He scanned the distant rocks. Shadows moved. Shapes shifted. Something wasn't right. "They're close," he muttered. Inside the trailer, Sarah helped Leary finish eating a warm meal Jace had made from old ration packs. It wasn't much, just rehydrated paste. But to them, it was the best meal in days. Sarah's strength had returned slightly, enough to stand without help. But she still moved with pain. Suddenly, Jace dropped inside and locked the hatch. His face was serious. 3 of them, heading this way, moving slow, like they're waiting to be seen. Sarah stood. "Scouts," he nodded. "Trying to draw us out." "We can't fight them," she said quickly. "You don't have enough weapons." "I don't need weapons," Jace replied. "I need their arrogance." He walked to a metal panel on the wall, pulled it aside, and revealed a dusty bag full of strange tools: spikes, wires, small explosive pods, smoke bottles, and a broken drone with a new battery. Sarah stared. "You were a soldier." "I told you," Jace said. "I was." Outside, the 3 scouts got closer. They weren't human. They looked like insectoids, tall, with armored legs and black curved masks. Each one carried a long energy blade and a scanner strapped to their chest. Their skin shimmered slightly as if camouflaged. One of them pointed at the trailer. Jace took a deep breath. "All right, a time to lie." He climbed out and waved his hands. "Hey!" he shouted. "Looking for someone?" The scouts stopped. One walked forward. "We detected energy." "Speak your name," it said in a robotic voice. "Name's Jace Walker. I live out here alone, no one else." "You lie." "Do I?" Jace grinned. "Check my trailer. Just dust and regrets in there." The scout stared at him, motionless. Then it tapped its wrist and turned around. "We will return." "Sure," Jace said. "Bring cookies next time." The 3 figures walked back into the rocks. Silent. Fast Jace waited until they vanished, then dropped back into the trailer. "They didn't believe me," he said. Sarah paced slowly. "They'll come back. More of them." "I know," Jace said. "That's why we're not staying." He opened a floor panel and revealed another tunnel, this one leading in a different direction. "But before we go," he added, "I need to make a message." He pulled the broken drone from his bag and began to repair it. Attached wires, installed the battery, soldered a small voice chip to the side. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked, sending them a distraction. Hours later, the scouts returned, this time with 6 more soldiers. They stormed the trailer, blades ready, broke the lock, kicked down the door. But the place was empty. Only a small drone sat in the middle. It blinked once, then it spoke. "I told you, just dust and regrets." Boom! The trailer exploded in fire and smoke, blinding them. From half a mile away, Jace, Sarah, and Leary watched the fire rise into the sky. "You destroyed your own shelter," Sarah said in disbelief. "Wasn't much of a shelter anymore," Jace replied. "Besides, it sent the message." "What message?" Jace looked her in the eyes. "That I won't be hunted. I won't run. And I won't let them take you. Sierra's lips trembled. She wasn't used to this. Not from humans. Not from anyone. You'll die for us, she whispered. No, Jace said. I'll live for you. Leary squeezed his hand. Protector. He looked down and smiled. That's right, kid. Behind them, the sky burned with smoke. Ahead of them, a narrow path led deeper into the canyons. They had no map, no ship, no help. But they had hope. And for Sarah, that was the first time in years she believed in it again. The attack at midnight. Midnight fell like a heavy blanket. The stars above blinked coldly, but the land below was alive, with danger. Jace had found an old mining outpost hidden deep in the canyon walls. Most of it was broken, wires dangled, metal rusted, but the underground room, still solid. One entrance, one exit, easy to defend. He lit no fire. The cold bit at them, but silence was safer than warmth. Sierra held Leary in her arms, rocking gently, humming a lullaby in her alien tongue. Leary's eyes slowly closed, comforted by her mother's voice. Jace sat by the door, listening, watching. He hadn't slept in nearly 2 days. His hands worked fast, setting up traps with tripwires, noise mines, and flash charges. Old tricks. From old wars. He didn't expect to survive a full assault, but he expected to make the enemy bleed. Around 2 a.m., the first sound came. Not footsteps, not ships. Scraping. Claws against stone. Jace froze. Then, a soft hiss. He turned to Sarah. She understood instantly. She gently laid Leary down and crawled toward the corner, shielding the child with her own body. Jace crouched low. Heart steady. He heard the sound again. Closer now. He checked the motion scanner. 5 red dots. No, 6. They're in the walls. He whispered, and then, crash. The roof above cracked open and something dropped through. Fast, tall, covered in black armor. An assassin. Its mask clicked as it scanned the room. Jace didn't hesitate. He kicked the tripwire beside the door. Flash. A burst of blinding white. Light filled the room. The assassin screeched and stumbled. Jace charged forward and slammed a pipe into the enemy's faceplate. Crack. The alien flew back, crashing into a wall. But more came. 2 more dropped through the opening. One ran at Jace. The other sprinted toward Sarah and Leary. No, Jace shouted. He pulled out a small shock disc and threw it. The disc hit the attacker's leg and exploded in blue sparks. It collapsed, twitching, but the last one didn't slow down. Sarah stood up, limping, but grabbed a broken metal rod and swung it hard. The rod struck the alien's chest. It growled and knocked her aside. She hit the wall and fell. Leary screamed. Jace grabbed the fallen alien's blade and charged. He tackled the attacker just inches before it reached Leary. They both hit the ground. The alien roared and tried to stab. Jace wrestled with it, blade scraping against blade. His arm burned. His shoulder ached. He growled, twisted the weapon, and drove it through the alien's throat. Silence. He stood up, gasping for air. Blood on his arms. Smoke in the room. Sparks flew from broken walls. He looked around. 3 enemies down. 3 more remained outside. Sarah groaned from the corner. Her forehead was bleeding, but she was conscious. Leary crawled to her, holding her tightly. Jace helped Sarah up. Are you okay? I will be. Outside, howls echoed through the canyon. They know, Sarah said. They know they lost some of their best. Jace nodded. Good. He turned to his hidden pack and pulled out the last emergency beacon. Sarah's eyes widened. Are you sure? He nodded. We need help, I'll risk it. He pressed the button. A small light blinked green. The signal was out. Now they waited. Sarah sat down, holding Leary close again. You're bleeding, she whispered. Jace looked down, a long cut along his arm. He hadn't even noticed it. I've had worse. She smiled weakly. You're insane. I've been called worse. They shared a quiet laugh. The first real laugh since the crash, then Sarah looked at him seriously. "If we survive this," she said softly, "I want you to know, my people will owe you a debt that can't be paid." Jace shook his head. "I'm not doing this for debt." "Then why?" He looked at Leary, then at Sarah. And finally he said, "Because someone has to protect the ones no one else will." Outside, the enemy regrouped, but inside, the human had already made his stand, and this time, he would not fall, the protectors stand. The air was thick with smoke. Jace's hands trembled slightly as he tightened the last trap. His arms were bruised, his shoulder burned. His body begged him to rest, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Outside the broken mining outpost, movement echoed through the canyon. The sound was unnatural. Metal on stone, whispering machines. Low, alien growls, more were coming. 10, maybe 12 this time. Jace stood at the heart of the broken structure, surrounded by shadows, waiting. Not to run, not to hide, to stand. Sarah watched him from the corner, her arm wrapped tightly around Leary. She saw it in his eyes. Something had changed. He no longer looked like a man with nothing to live for. Now, he looked like a soldier with something to defend. "You could still escape," Sarah whispered. "They're coming for us, not you." Jace smiled faintly. "I won't survive this canyon, but I can slow them. Maybe long enough." She stepped forward, shaking but steady. "We don't leave you behind." He looked her in the eyes. "You have to. This isn't about me anymore." She looked down. "You remind me of him. My husband." Jace nodded. "Then let's make sure your husband's daughter lives to tell this story." Outside, the night lit up. They came. Glowing eyes. Razor weapons. Masks shaped like skulls. This was no search party. It was a cleansing unit. They came silent and fast, expecting another easy kill. They were wrong. The first two hit a hidden trip mine. The blast sent them flying backward, fire licking their armor. A third stepped on a spike trap and collapsed, screaming in alien tongue. From the rooftop, Jace opened fire with his old rifle. It shook in his hands, barely holding together. Each blast was slow, but it counted. He didn't miss. The enemy scattered, ducking behind rocks and scrap. They tried to flank him, but Jace was ready. He'd set the field like a hunter. Every step they took, he punished. Still, they were many. He was one. A blade cut past his cheek. Another grazed his ribs. He fell back, chest heaving. From inside the bunker, Sarah sent Leary into the tunnel beneath them, leading into the canyon caves. "Run to the lights," Sarah told her. "Don't stop. Don't turn around." Leary hesitated. "Mama." "Now." "Leary!" the girl cried, but obeyed. Sarah turned back, grabbed a broken metal pole, and joined Jace outside. He turned, bloodied, eyes wide. "What are you doing?" She struck a charging alien across the head. "Fighting!" She stood beside him, one knee weak, hands shaking, but she stood. Together they fought, two broken warriors, back to back, until a sound filled the air, a low hum, deep, powerful, familiar. They looked up, above the canyon. A ship appeared. Not the enemy's. A rescue vessel. Sarah gasped. The signal. Someone came. The ship dropped lower. Bright lights scanned the canyon. Loudspeakers echoed in Sarah's language. The enemy froze, then ran. The alien warriors vanished. Into the rocks, afraid now. Jace fell to one knee. Sarah caught him. "Jace, stay with me." He smiled, barely conscious. "Told you, I'd hold them." The rescue team landed. Medics ran to them. Leary appeared from the tunnel, tears in her eyes. "Mama." Sarah wrapped her arms around the child. Then she turned to Jace and held him close. He had saved them. He had stood alone. And now, he didn't have to stand anymore. A family found. Jace woke up to soft light and the scent of clean air. For a moment, he thought he was dead. The pain was gone. The noise of battle, the smoke, the screaming, it had all faded. He blinked and looked around. He was lying on a smooth surface. Warm blankets covered him. Strange symbols glowed on the walls. It wasn't a hospital. It was a ship. A rescue ship. He tried to sit up, but a gentle hand pushed him back. "Easy," came Sarah's voice. "You need rest." She sat beside him, wrapped in clean robes. Her cuts were gone. Her eyes no longer held fear, and beside her stood Leary, smiling wide. "Protector," she squealed. Jace's throat tightened. He couldn't speak. Not at first. Syrah leaned closer. "You kept your promise. You stayed. You fought." He coughed. "They gone?" She nodded. "Gone. The rescue signal you sent? It reached what's left of our people. They came. And you're safe?" "For now," she said. "But that's not enough." Jace blinked. "What do you mean?" Sarah looked down, then back at him. "They offered to take us to the refugee colony," she said. "To start again." "Good," he said weakly. "You'll be safe there. But I told them I won't go. Unless you come too." Jace stared at her. "Why?" "Because we're not just survivors anymore," she said softly. "We're a family." He looked at Leary. She was drawing something on a small tablet. He squinted. It was a picture. 3 figures, a mother, a girl, and a man holding their hands. She looked up at him. "You're my dad now." Jace looked away, trying to hide the tears. "I'm not a father," he whispered. "You are to her," Sarah said gently. "And to me, you're more than a protector. You're hope. The first real hope I've had since the war." He sat in silence, then nodded. "All right, I'll go with you." Leary cheered and hugged him, tiny arms around his neck. Days passed. Jace healed slowly. The ship took them across stars to a quiet moon where survivors were building a new life. It wasn't perfect. Supplies were low. Homes were small. But no one hunted them here. No one called Sarah a traitor. No one saw Leary as a target. They saw her as a child. Jace worked with engineers, fixing broken machines, building shelters. Sarah taught young ones how to speak, how to read. And Leary, she laughed again. One evening, as twin moons rose over the quiet colony, Jace sat outside their new home, staring at the stars. Sarah sat beside him. "I never thought I'd see peace again," she said. Jace nodded. "It still feels strange." She smiled. "Not to me. Feels like we earned it." Leary came running out of the house and jumped onto Jace's lap. "I made something," she said. She held up a hand-drawn badge. It read, "Family of the Protector." Jace smiled. For the first time in years, he didn't feel lost. He felt found.